Hey everybody, this is Eddie Babbage, founder, CEO of Timeline Genius, your host here of the Wedding Industry Insider Podcast. I am here with one of my friends and one of the most awesome people in our beloved wedding industry, Tayler Cusick Hollman. She is the founder of Enji, which is a company that provides a suite of marketing tools for small businesses, and their mission is to make marketing manageable for small businesses. Tayler, you've been on the podcast before, one of the most popular episodes we've ever done, and what a treat to have you back on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm so excited to be here. Way to set the bar high. Now I have to have the first and second most popular episodes of the podcast. But, you and I, we could talk shop all day. And so I'm super excited to dive back in with you.
Yeah. And, just for context here for folks to see kind of behind the scenes, I can't remember was that a bridal society retreat where we met? And I just remember I feel like I latched onto you. Like, I just remember at some point, like, I was, like, talking to you, and I was like, this is Wonder Woman. I need to, like, know her. And, like, I was like, can we just go have a bite to eat and talk? And I feel like I cornered you, and, like, after that, we're, like, off to the races,
Oh, and we were
at least
fast
that's
friends.
my impression.
No, I remember it that way as well. And we went in to, like, grab dinner, and it turned into a 3-hour dinner. We were like, oh shit, like, we gotta go. So, I think that gives everyone as much context as they would ever need in terms of understanding, like, how fast and furiously we became friends.
Yeah, well, it's really a treat, Tayler. Every time I talk to you, I feel like, I'm the better for it. And for that same reason, I think our audience is privileged here to let me kind of tap into the mind of Tayler and to share some of the things that are going on. So just to kind of give folks a preview here, you are one of the savviest marketers I know, so I would be remiss in my duties if we didn't talk shop on marketing. And in addition, you have a very exciting company going that I think is going to make an impact in our industry and beyond. And I want to give people a chance to kind of hear about it in many cases first, through our podcast. But before we get into all of that, for those that don't know you, would you mind just kind of telling folks a little bit about your background and your path to where you currently are?
Yeah, a lot of people probably recognize my face now that I love that you're doing video now. They're like, why is she so familiar to me? It's because I have always tried to be in all the places all the time wherever it's humanly possible. But my background is as a marketing consultant for wedding businesses and pros. And so I have been lucky enough to be didn't plan on being in the wedding industry, but I'm so glad that this is where I landed, because I was like, this is where all of the cool people hang out. They're super creative and they literally pour everything into their businesses. So the level of energy and drive that's here in the wedding space is like chef's kiss to me. But so I've been working with, pros since 2015 and really focused in on helping them understand what it is they can do to market their businesses by means of giving them an actual strategy or plan. Because let's be honest, everyone's got 100 million bazillion things to do, and creating a marketing strategy sounds like this big scary animal. And they're like, well, I'm just gonna not do that today or ever. So I've had the pleasure of working with people to help them get their strategy set up. And over the course of time, people started realizing that, hey, a lot of implementation or implementing this strategy involves writing. And so I stepped into that role and started really producing a lot of content for people. So if I'm not talking shop with someone, I'm probably sitting at my computer writing something on behalf of someone. But yeah, so that's what I've been doing since 2015. And I have had a lot of experience working not just with individual wedding businesses, but some of the best names in tech in the wedding space. And so I've had the pleasure of working with you, Eddie. I've done stuff with Rock Paper Coin. a lot of people, I think this is where the light bulb is going to go off. I'm the original marketing director at Aisle Planner, so, and I'm a contributing editor at Wedding Pro, so I've pretty much touched all of the the big names in the business. So that's just a little bit about me and why you might recognize Tayler from somewhere. It's because I've been a lot of places.
That is true, Taylor. It's so true. Kind of hearing you just kind of say that, like, I'm just like, you've really impacted our industry, in ways that could be a little like behind the scene, like you're saying, just even what you did at Aisle Planner, like, and I remember those early days because we launched Timeline Genius around that same time, just, and it's funny if you think back, like before those days, like there really were no, it sounds weird now, but there wasn't this proliferation of online tools, but just your impact on our industry has been and continues to be really meaningful. And I hope you get like a little like sense of fulfillment like in here, just knowing that like you've made a difference, in our space. So let's talk a little bit, Taylor, so again, there are a couple things we were vibing as we tend to do in the pre-interview about mindset and about what goes into success. And it's oftentimes not just the picture that we see or the movie that we kind of see projected. And I don't care if you're building a wedding planning business, a software business, or a photography business. I feel like there are these deeper sort of principles and mindsets that apply. Talk to me as you're now building Enji. Well, first of all, tell everybody what is your new venture, Enji. Let's just start with that. I know the details, but please share that with the audience.
Yeah, like what am I in the thick of being trying to like channel all of my positive mindset over? So because I am very much in the thick of it, just in case anyone is doubting. So my newest adventure is I founded a tech company. This is kind of, I think, been a long time coming because I've worked in the tech space so much in the wedding industry, and even a little bit outside of it. But so what I have built is, well, I didn't personally build it because I didn't write any of the code. Let's just get that straight. I've got a partner who does that. But what we've built is right? I mean, I know enough to like change color codes, add images and links, and like be dangerous enough to break some stuff in the code, but not to actually write it. But yeah, so what I've built is a suite of marketing tools specifically for small businesses. And these tools are meant to really help coach or quarterback small businesses to understand what they should be doing to market their business. And I know that sounds like super basic and fundamental. You're like, yeah, Taylor, everyone should kind of like know what they should do. But like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people they never get to the point where they're actually creating a marketing strategy for themselves, because as soon as you jump on Google and you start to search for what is a marketing strategy, how do I create one, it becomes that big scary animal and you're just like, hard pass. I don't have the capacity to do that. And a lot of people put themselves into a mindset where they're not qualified to create a marketing strategy for their business. And so I very much think the opposite. I think everyone needs to have a marketing strategy for their business, because otherwise you're basically herding cats when it comes to what you're doing. They're just like scattering in a bunch. You're marketing your business in a bunch of directions, and it's not really getting you to the place where you're seeing momentum and consistent success. And so everyone should have a marketing strategy. And I wanted to figure out a way to make it like as stupid, easy, and fast as possible to get one that's customized to your business. And so that's what we've built. And there's a whole suite of tools around there, or around that core marketing strategy feature, that help you then become the CMO of your business, which is a chief marketing officer, and really help you implement and do the things that you need to do to bring that strategy to life.
I love that, Taylor. And I believe, and this is something that everybody kind of pays lip service to, but for me, became this like deeply ingrained, almost like spiritual like orientation to business for me is that like every great business is built on the foundation of service, right? Like serving a need, solving a pain. Again, I know we all know these things, but no, like really, really, that's what business comes down to. Um, what is the need that you perceive? Because I know you love this industry. You're not just doing this to make a buck. I mean, we all need money, otherwise your business will go out. And I like nice dinners and many other things, but that's not ultimately the driver here. Talk to me a little bit about like the real core reason that you started Enji.
Yeah, I mean, it's all of the clients that I've had the honor of working with over the last 8 years, because people come to me, and I've got, I also have like the non-client clients who are my small business owning friends, right? All the planners and florists and bakers and whatnot who just blow up my DMs and my phone with text messages of like, Taylor, give me a gut check on this. What should I do? I'm trying to work through this problem. And so the whole idea for Enji, this is basically like a COVID project gone wild because I had just a little bit too much time on my hands during COVID, right? Like a lot of us. But at the same time, those first 2 years of COVID, a lot of people were really focused for the first time on working on their business. And so marketing and copy became a huge focus for a lot of people. And so I got to this point where my calendar was just like so booked and booked pretty far out in advance that, people were waiting like 6 to 9 months to work with me, which I thought was a very humbling experience. But I was like, there's clearly this tremendous need out there for help on the strategy side of things, because people just want to, at their core, have confidence that what they're doing actually like has a shot at working, as opposed to just, well, I feel unqualified to do it and I'll just like try some things. So really it's Enji is based on everything that all of the actual humans who own small businesses in my life have ever asked me to do. And so it's very much rooted in that I want to serve, I want to solve a problem, and I'm just one of those people who's in a unique situation to figure out how to turn myself and my brain into technology, which, I'm very thankful that I am a person who kind of straddles the service and tech side of things. So yeah, it's super people focused and founded.
So tell me, because part of the reason why I want to kind of talk about Enji here, Taylor, part of the reason is because I think that every wedding pro listening to us right now, if you're serious about building your business, you need to know about the tools that are out there to help you, right? Like, I think there's just value, whether you're using it or not, frankly. I think there's value in you knowing that the tool exists and having at least a baseline understanding of what it does. So you can have a baseline level of an informed decision about whether or not you should use it, right? So that's part of what I want to do is kind of expose Enji to folks as a tool that's out there for them. But also, talking about Enji gives context for some of this mindset stuff that I want to segue into eventually. So tell me, kind of in the spirit of revealing tools that could potentially be helpful for people, if I'm a wedding planner, right, and I'm working around the clock producing weddings, maybe I don't have a marketing strategy, whatever, like how can Enji make an impact on me and my business?
So, for a lot of people who are really focused on serving their clients, right, which wedding planners tend to be, I say this with all the love, I'm not dissing any of the other wedding pro types out there, but planners tend to be the ones who are like so obsessed with serving their couples, right? Like they bend over backwards. They do things that are sometimes not in their own best interests in the name of client experience, right? Which is why everyone who's a wedding planner is, I put them way up here on the pedestal because I'm not nice enough to put up with the BS that planners do. But so in that vein of like being people who constantly serve, there's this whole, like, you never turn the tables around and serve yourself, right? Which is super important for the sustainability and longevity of your business. And so part of that whole equation becomes this concept of like, I am a very time poor person. I make decisions all day for work. Please don't ask me another question because I just got inundated for the last 12 hours from people. So part of what Enji does, kind of like the latent effects, is it removes a lot of the responsibility of making decisions. So there's less decision fatigue about what am I going to do to market my business and when. But then also to speak to the time poor piece, what we're doing with the strategy is not giving you this like enormous output of here are all of the things that you could possibly do to market your business. That doesn't help emotionally at all. In fact, that's pretty like antithetical to helping, because then people just get overwhelmed and they're like, I don't have the capacity to do that. So what we're doing is creating a marketing strategy with recommended tasks that is scaled back to what's really realistic for you to do as usually a business party of one who's responsible for not just strategizing, but actually doing the marketing things. And so, it's a way for people to kind of clone themselves or, get this kind of digital marketing department added to their team without needing to, hire and train a bunch of people, because that's great. If you can do that, highly recommend working with marketing professionals. But for a lot of people, that's just currently out of reach. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have the benefits of working with someone who knows their stuff on the marketing side.
I love that, Taylor. And just really quickly, I'm going to come back to Enji, and we're definitely going to come back to marketing in general, because I know you've got a lot of, like you just said, everybody's like, Taylor, just tell me what to do with marketing, right? So I want to have you tell people as best I can in this limited time format we have what to do with marketing. And before I get to the mindset piece, can you just give people the URL, like just here, we'll come back to that again at the end, but if people want to check Enji out, like where do they go?
Yeah, so the website is enji.co, and everyone can jump in and try it out for 14 days for free. And in 14 days, it only takes you a few minutes to create a customized marketing strategy for yourself. So I'm talking 5, maybe 10 minutes if you're dragging your feet and you're like overthinking the questions. But yeah, 14 days, you can get in there, create a marketing strategy, see what you need to do to implement it, and start really like making some moves on the marketing side of things.
So I'm just going to chime in really quickly before I move to mindset and just say, guys, like go check out Enji, support Taylor, because all she's done is support our industry. And if there's something, I know how I was in the early days of Timeline Genius, like give me your feedback, right? Like good, bad, whatever, just shoot me completely straight. Tell her, what you love or what it could do better, all of that. I'm putting words in your mouth, but I just want to invite everybody to go show some support, not just to support you, but also for them selfishly to kind of boost their marketing game. So Taylor, we've given some context here. People know what you're up to. You've clearly had this wide range of business experience and marketing experience. And, like you said, even, consulting for Timeline Genius. I remember you helping us with some content marketing initiatives that we were doing, SEO and this stuff. Based on all of your business experience, let's talk about what you deem to be your principles for success in business. Tell me and everybody kind of has, there's certain common ties between all of us, right? But for you, what have you learned over the years about what it takes to be successful. Tell me just like the first powerful sort of principle that comes to mind for you that you think, not just for yourself, but in the consulting, you've seen other companies and helped other companies get built. Like, what comes to your mind as like one of the top most important principles for building a successful business?
Oh man, that would be grit and resilience. And that's as an individual, but also as an organization. Because things are not always easy. In fact, things are usually really hard. And as a business owner, or, as someone who's, at the helm of a business or a company, you are pretty constantly inundated with problems you need to solve and challenges you need to figure out a way through. And without grit and resilience, you're just gonna be like, well, it's too hard. I guess I'm done. I'll walk away. Or you just, you don't actually attack these problems head on and then they slowly kill you. I mean, I know that's really that's super intense of a statement, but that's the fact of the matter, is that if you don't have this, you can't really see my hands, but if you don't have something deep down in here that you can dig into and be like, nah, man, I'm going to keep going, then you're just kind of slowly going to bleed out over time, which I'm pretty sure is not what anyone wants to do.
Yeah. You always have these colorful metaphors. I'm picturing that Old West movie where you get the gut wound and you just die in the desert, But
Yep.
It's funny. You made me think of this. I remember when I was practicing law back in Louisville. Actually, it might have been when I started my first company. In any event, there was this entrepreneur sort of event. The keynote speaker was this guy, the guy that founded Humana, the hugely successful company. He said, if I had known when I started how hard it was going to be, I wouldn't have started, but I'm so glad I did. And I think you and I have talked about this. We're in a mastermind group. I'm so grateful for that. Together we have a great mastermind group, and it comes up you kind of see. I feel like the public perception is that everything is smooth and easy to just build a great company and any type of company. But the reality is behind the scenes, and again, I've had all types of people and famous planners and wedding pros on this podcast. And I know for myself, and I know you do too, behind the scenes, it's always a hustle and a grind and a struggle. And there are always challenges there. Do you kind of get that same sense that there's this perception sometimes that oh, it's easy, but in reality, it's what you just said, that it's really hard, and it can almost make you feel bad, as folks listen, well, it seems like this planner's got everything figured out and their business is just cruising and I'm having to slog it out. I don't know. Does that resonate with you? Do you kind of feel that way?
100%. I mean, when you think about how you interact with other companies and brands, you're interacting with their marketing and their branding efforts, which no one's out there building their brand reputation around oh, this shit's hard, right? No, everyone is out there building their brand around the concept of everything is great, our shit is cool, you should use it, buy from me, blah, blah, blah. So we only see those positive brand and marketing messages from people, which feeds into all of the things. I mean, we're not having a conversation about comparing or imposter syndrome, but it 100% feeds into that, because we are all purposefully putting out good vibes for our business, because that is required to attract customers. But, behind the scenes, I have yet to meet a business owner who's yeah, my life is just rainbows and unicorns all the time.
Right.
It's definitely more flaming bags of dog. It's Billy Madison dropping flaming bags of dog poo on our doorsteps and lighting them on fire every day, right? And you're just waiting for the next flaming bag of dog poo. So, it's really important for people to realize that we are taking in very strategic, specific, crafted messages from the businesses that we're watching. And that is not reality. It's marketing.
Right. Absolutely. And for you, Taylor, I love that word tenacity. In fact, I was just talking about it earlier today. But the for you, where does that, and I totally did see your hands like rubbing like the belly, like that fire in your belly, which I can feel. It's like the Care Bear. Nobody knows, like this child of the 80s, like they would like
Yes, yes, yes.
beam, like I feel like Taylor's Care Bear beams fire out of the belly, like hustle fire. Like the where does that come from for you, Taylor? Like you've always been, I feel like, so tenacious and driven. Like, what's your sort of source for your motivation? In the hopes that maybe other people in hearing it can kind of tap into theirs a little more deeply.
Yeah. There's a part of me that just has no quit. And that's just, I think I just came out the womb that way. I'm pretty sure my mom and dad would back me up on that statement, that I just came out as this like fiery little kid. And so, that you can't replicate that part of it. But every day that I wake up, and I'm not being facetious when I say this at all, and I'm not like saying this for the camera, but every day that I wake up, I basically am like, I'm going to go as hard as humanly possible because my client is going as hard as they can for their business. And I very much respect the responsibility that comes with owning a business, right? Like this for most people is your livelihood, their livelihood. And the amount of risk and the amount of just like messy emotional soup that comes with that and stress, if I can do anything to temper that, like that's what gets me going, right? I'm like, what's hard? How do we fix it? I'm very much if there's a problem, we're going to find a solution. And it's because I have this extreme level of respect for the risk that everyone's taking by starting their own business. I mean, full transparency, like, I have been able to take risks myself by being self-employed, because I think in big part because I have a spouse who has a corporate job, right? So there's the corporate safety net there. I would be terrified if I was doing this completely without that safety net. And so that is what feeds that Care Bear stare kind of fire.
Care Bear stare kind of fire. Can we
I mean, that's what it is, right? Care Bear.
Wedding and VA, I see us sporting these t-shirts together.
Swag.
I love it, Taylor. And what I hear there that I think is potentially helpful and relevant to everybody listening, I know it is for me, is this notion of stepping outside of yourself for your why, not just looking at your own needs, desires, and dreams, but looking at the people that you serve. Because I felt that, right? Like when you said it, because, you're serving planners, say with Enji, among others, like, and I'm like, I'm thinking about just how stressful that is and how tough that job is. And it really does light you up if you can care about that, to realize that everybody's in this grind and you have a chance to help other people kind of make it through. So for you, the tenacity piece, tell me another. I'm going to try to get 3 of these. Okay. So tenacity, amen, amen, amen. Okay. Something else for you, Taylor, and who's listening right now. Like we've got wedding industry pros, a lot of planners. Like it's hard building those businesses. It's hard not just being the planner, but also the business owner. Like, what's another principle that you've kind of adopted and seen based on your experience that helps your success and drives success?
Yeah, the second one is open-mindedness. And
tell me a little bit more about that.
And the willingness to receive feedback. I think those things go hand in hand. And I say that because we are all only one person with one brain that thinks about any one particular thing in one way. And there are 7 billion, maybe it's 8. I don't know what the billion count is.
It's scary. It keeps jumping.
Yeah. There are billions of people on this planet who have a unique perspective on something, right? And so whether it's your approach to planning a wedding or designing flowers or how you're going to market your business or who you're going to hire next, these things all sit outside of us and we're looking at them through our lens. And there are lots of other ways of looking at something and interpreting what the next move or the right move might be. And so the opposite of what I'm saying is like stubbornness and closed-mindedness and like, well, like this is how I want to do it. Because the magic really happens when you take the seed that you planted and you get other people's opinions and feedback in there, right? And you really like fertilize it with that. And granted, you don't have to take everyone's feedback because some of it's crap, and that's fine. And you can like put that in the compost pile. But if you're not open-minded, you're not going to receive the good ideas and the good pieces of feedback that actually can propel you forward, and sometimes propel you way faster than you could do it if you just decided to like slog it out on your own.
I love that. And, it's funny. There's a guy, Michael Singer, who I love. He wrote a book called Untethered Soul and Surrender Experiment. And he's got a lot of videos on YouTube. He's really insightful. And he says this exact same point that you're making, Taylor. And I don't think I'd really ever stop to just squarely consider just how infinitesimally like little I know, right? Like, because it's almost like my 5-year-old, right? Bless him. I love him. He's like the best kid in the world. But like how he makes it through the world, given like what he knows, like he thought that this is totally random side note. He thought that the fortune cookies at Panda Express were literally telling the true future. He was so relieved. He had a conversation with my wife where it happened randomly to come up that like, that wasn't the case. And he was so relieved because he thought all of these fortune cookies were going to come true. And apparently one or two of them weren't necessarily what he wanted to have happen. I say that because like he kind of goes through the world unaware of how much he doesn't know. And I feel like we all do that. Like I have a view about like, Guatemala or something. I'm like, I've never been. Even Mexico, where I lived for a summer. That was 20 years ago. Like, so little. And yet the tendency in business and everywhere is to kind of operate from this assumption that I've got things figured out. What I want to ask you, though, to kind of push on that is on the flip side, there's sometimes where like you do need to like kind of have that confidence in your own judgment. And you do need to, and this can also equally be a challenge for me, you do need to say, okay, I respect that 5 other people have a different opinion, but this is like, how do you kind of balance that sort of self-reliance and self-confidence with a sense of being open-minded?
Yeah. It's interesting that the conversation has gone this way because just on the other side of my laptop that you guys can't see, I have this text from Eddie that he sent me when I basically was in one of these situations not that long ago. I had someone that didn't get what we were doing with Enji, and I logically knew that at some point in time I would meet a human or multiple humans that just didn't get it. But even though my brain was like, this is coming, be prepared for it, emotionally, I was like, just making all the faces, and it stewed and it sat, and I like didn't like it at all. And so I had texted Eddie about it. And so, this was one of the things we talked about, and I'm looking at it right now, and it's basically coming back to your why, right? And your mission and your vision. And, that's something that in other conversations and other places, I've written a lot of content about, company mission, vision, values, and how those are your North Star. Yeah. And if you don't have those things, which again, a lot of people haven't actually like put these things down on paper to remind them of where exactly are you driving this bus. When you find yourself in situations where you need to make a choice of, okay, well, should I take this person's feedback and make it actionable, or do I just, like I said, put it in the compost pile? Without that North Star, you're not going to know what to do. And so I, to my core, know what we're trying to do at Enji, and that is crystal clear to me. And
that.
so on the occasion where, everyone's got an opinion, but sometimes I'm gonna get ideas from people. And actually, just last week I got someone who has been in trial sent this great email with lots of ideas. Some of them were great because they're like different versions of what I had already put on the list of things we want to do. And then there were others was like, that's just not in line with where we're going, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're bad ideas, but they're very misaligned with where
Right.
we're taking this. And so I think that that's what you need to have and feel
Love that.
confident about in order to decide whether or not you're going to take a piece of feedback from someone else.
I love that so much, Taylor. Hearing you answer this question reminded me of something, an insight that I've had just repeatedly over the last year or two. It's just that one of the things that makes business tricky is there are these seemingly paradoxical, equally valid principles that we need to follow. Be open-minded, listen to other people, don't think you know it all, but trust yourself. It's finding that sort of Zen midpoint, that Tao, I'm just that. It's really cool. I can't believe how quickly this time is going. And like I said, I want to get to marketing, but I want to get one more principle from you, Taylor. One more, just because you've seen things from so many different angles. Give me one more principle that for you is just in your heart for this is something that helps a person become successful in business.
Commitment. And it's definitely tied to the grit piece, but it's different, right? Because grit is you got to dig deep to work through hard stuff. Commitment is, to me, in practice, more of the what am I doing on a regular basis? Am I waking up every day and am I doing X, Y, Z? Because it's those little things that you need, those little things to take those baby steps forward that, after a year you turn back and you've covered so much ground. And it's super easy for us to, for whatever reason, break our commitments to ourselves and our businesses. It's so easy to do. And on the benign end of the scale, it's us deciding, oh, I had a task on my calendar to write a blog post today. I'll push it out 2 weeks, right? That's, like I said, benign, but that is you breaking a commitment that you had kind of set for yourself. On the bigger end of things, breaking that commitment can be you literally breaking a promise that you made to someone who you work with or to a client or, whatever. So I think that without that consistency of I am going to do, that again, it just, you wake up one morning and your expectations of where you think you should be is very off from where you actually are.
Yeah, it's funny. Every time I do these podcasts, it's funny, these messages, they just get filtered in. I hope everybody else is really engaging with what you're saying too and filtering it through their own experience, because that really hits me, really resonates. This is totally random. Did you read Will Smith's memoir / autobiography?
I have not. But now
Before
I'm
he went
intrigued.
crazy and slept. It's actually an incredible read. I stopped recommending it after the Oscar incident because I felt it's recommending It's a Wonderful Life, and then there's this surprise ending where he goes and beats somebody up in public and lands in jail. I'm that's not the ending of the book, but regardless, I'm not gonna get into the whole we all have our issues, whatever. But he's actually a really interesting person. He said something that really landed with me and makes me think of what you're saying now. He said, I don't break promises to myself. He did this whole thing where he's I'm going to lock myself away for a week and a half with no cell phone or whatever. And he's he reached this point where he's like ready to just climb the walls. He's like, I can't, Dib. He's like, no, no, no. He's like, there's just this rule. Like, if I say to myself, like, I'm going to go train and do XYZ, like, and I feel like that really hits me, because that commitment that you're talking about, especially the one to yourself, that is the sort of wellspring or ultimate source for so much of our self-confidence. Because you can't hide from yourself, right? If you're breaking those commitments to yourself, you know you broke them because they were your commitments. So you know you can't trust yourself. And like, I think of that in, in the interest and energy of transparency that we have going here, like, I'm like, yeah, I need to check myself. Like, there are a few things that I've said, like, oh, I was going to do this and, whatever. Like, that's really interesting to hear you say that, Taylor.
Yeah, I mean, for the people who have had the pleasure of being in my physical space, I mean, I keep a digital task list, but I also have my paper planner, and my paper planner is kind of notorious because I write in it in pen. So like, please don't fuck with my schedule, because I wrote it in pen, and because I wrote it in pen, that is my way of like, this is my level of commitment to this thing. I've put it in pen, and if for whatever reason it's not happening, I got to put this ugly little scribble through it. So come hell or high water, I am doing the things that are written on my planner every day.
As a wedding planner, you know how important it is to create detailed wedding day timelines for your events. But creating your timelines can be a tedious and time-consuming job. Until now. Because Timeline Genius lets you create beautiful, detailed wedding day timelines with ease. And it keeps everything you need on the wedding day in one central place. Here's how it works. First, Timeline Genius saves all your clients, vendors, and venues in your Rolodex, so you don't lose time looking for their information. And when you're ready to create a new timeline, you simply enter the key information for your wedding. Click a button, and voila! Timeline Genius magically gives you a customized timeline for your event, where all the details are laid out and the times are calculated for you. From there, you can easily edit your timeline by adding or deleting items, inserting images, changing font styles, and customizing everything to your liking. You can also instantly shift the times for as many items as you want. And when it comes to your clients and vendors, Timeline Genius lets you give them the highest level of service. You can send them tailored timelines, showing only the items they're involved in. And you can collaborate by inviting them to a mobile-friendly, web-based version of the timeline. You can even set text message reminders to automatically go out on the wedding day. And once you've completed your perfect timeline, you can download it or email it out as a beautifully styled PDF. And that's Timeline Genius, a smart software that will help take your wedding planning to the next level. Start your free trial today.
The lead in here for me, Taylor, is what you said, right? And it really resonates with me, where you get hired, and somebody is like, Taylor, tell me what to do, right? Obviously, we can't get super down in the weeds here, right? We're going to kind of stay at that sort of high and mid level here, just kind of overarching, Taylor. You and I both know who's listening and how busy wedding industry professionals, especially our planners, like, they're busy, especially now. Mm-hmm. A lot of them also don't have a deliberate marketing strategy, right? They haven't sat and crafted like the branding and all. Like, where do we want to start in kind of helping those people, just kind of at the foundational level? What do you want to say to these folks to give them that quick but concrete takeaway that they can go back to their business and start upping their marketing game? Yep.
Step one is to stop waking up every morning and not knowing what you're going to do to market your business that day. And, that's not me saying that you have to do something every single day to market your business, because that's not, you're not a marketer. You're a business owner. You're a wedding planner who has, like I said before, 100 million bazillion things that you're responsible for. Yeah. But if you wake up every single day and you don't know what to do, it's more than likely that you're just not going to do anything. And over time, that becomes a problem. So this is where having at least a basic foundational marketing strategy is clutch, because you're going to wake up and you're going to know, hey, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I'm going to do something to market my business. The other days of the week, I'm scot-free. But those days, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to commit to that, right?
Yeah.
And so that to me is really step one, is to, what's the phrase, boredom is, or idle time is the devil's playground, or boredom is the devil's playground, whatever that is. I mean, that's my life. That's why I can't sit still and I have my hands in a bunch of things. But it definitely is tied to marketing, that, if you don't know what you're going to do, then you're probably just going to fill that time with something else that day.
Yeah.
So that's really step one.
So that raises the question, right? And you said this, Taylor, I think it can be, for you, it's like we all have our superpowers, right? Like some of you play at things that other people work at, right? Like marketing for you is this instinctive thing. But as you just said, like a planner listening is like, I'm not a marketer, Taylor. You got it right when you just said that. So what do I do here? Like this marketing strategy, is that something that only marketers can do? Like, can I do that? How do I do it? Like, how do I kind of get that strategy so I'm not waking up with a clean slate every day?
Yeah, you totally can do it. Anyone that tells you you can't is lying to you. So you can tell them, Taylor said I can do this, so I'm going to do this. But, when I get, and I'm not taking these projects anymore because I'm working full time on Enji, so I don't have time for this. But when I used to get hired by wedding pros to create custom, like very bespoke marketing strategies for them, I would spend an entire work week. It's like very consistent. 40 hours is what I would spend thinking about that business and what that business should do to market their services, which is a pretty extreme amount of time for someone who's responsible for a bunch of stuff. So what we've essentially done with Enji is take that 40 hours of thinking that I would do for your business, and we've turned it into tech. So it took me months of sitting here in my office staring at my wall, figuring out how we were actually going to create that magic, is what we call it. But it was super important because I know that time is of the essence for when it comes to anything that is touching our business. And so instead of it costing you, whatever it costs to hire a consultant, which I love consultants and you can still absolutely work with them in Enji. But instead of that being the only choice between hiring a consultant or banging your head against the wall because you can't figure it out via Google, now you have those two choices, or you can do it in like 5 minutes in Enji, because I sat here in this office for way too long figuring out how to put those pieces together for you. So there's basically, I say this with all the love, there's basically no excuse anymore. Everyone can have a basic marketing strategy that's customized to their business now, because you only have to play a game of 20 questions with Enji, and we spit out something that's based on all the answers that you gave us.
Tech is such a powerful thing. It really, really is powerful. And so what are you kind of getting into? Just like, and obviously it varies business to business. I'm sure there's like a flowchart decision tree sort of thing that happens, but fundamentally, what are you getting at if you're trying to create a marketing strategy?
So the fundamental components are your goals, which are the big picture things. What do you want to do? What do you want to be as a business? And then paired with the objectives. And a lot of people are like, what's an objective? I don't really get how it's different than a goal. And so the way that we talk about and use goals and objectives in Enji is, the goals are those big, audacious things that you want to do, right? Yeah. Like an example would be, I want to build my brand. Okay, that's a great goal, but it's not super actionable. So the objectives come in as the actionable steps that ladder up to that goal. So those are you can't have a strategy without knowing what those things are. So that's the first piece. And then the second big piece is, who are your customers? Who are you talking to? Who are the couples that you're trying to attract to your business? Because those are the folks that you are doing all of these things for. And so they have to be in alignment with the problems that your potential couples are having, who they are as people, because that starts to mold your messaging. And then what the solution is that you provide that then is of a high level of value to them. So the customer personas is a huge piece, and I think everyone has heard about customer personas for a long time, or ideal
Doesn't mean
client
they've
avatars.
necessarily done it, but yeah.
True.
And Taylor, a lot of people think, I don't want to have an avatar because I want to serve everybody. Like, no matter how much we kind of preach against that, but like I hear that that's still a very common sort of thing. Don't you kind of see the same thing?
Yeah. I mean, and just because you have an avatar doesn't mean you have to say no to other people, right? Like, it's about defining the lane you're going to drive in, right? So you can change lanes every now and again, but in the end, you need to be going in this one direction toward your vision, your mission, your goals and objectives. And so, Enji makes it, again, stupid easy to put together at least a basic customer persona for you. So, I'm really trying to help people understand that we're doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you, so that all you have to do is come in and make refinements, so that decision fatigue is gone, and that that feeling of, oh, this is going to take me too much time, goes away. And then, the third piece of this is like, where are you going to market your business? So that's your marketing channels. And most people in the wedding industry, especially because of how visual our industry is we're checking everything out. We're seeing all the places that everyone seemingly is. And then we feel like we need to replicate that. And while there's, kind of, I'd say about a half dozen marketing channels that are most common and most effective for any wedding planner to use, the reality is most people can only handle like 2 or 3, and like really consistently showing up on 2 or 3. Because outside of that, the reality is that you're not like me, who spends most of their week marketing. You're on the opposite end of the spectrum. You're maybe spending 15, maybe 30 minutes on average a day marketing your business. Maybe, because a lot of days it's 0. So having a really succinct list of, this is where I'm going to show up and commit to marketing my business is the last piece of having a strategy.
I love that, Taylor. And beyond the strategy, and I love that, goals, knowing who you're serving, your avatar, figuring out your channels, beyond having the strategy. And I know it really, the further down we kind of come from the clouds, the more it gets like really kind of dependent on who your business, what your business is, what channels you're serving, using, etc. But what's the sort of next sort of piece in this sort of marketing workflow? You've got your strategy now. What's the next sort of thing that you would advise people on?
Yeah. So, we talked about commitment, and to me, that's very much tied to having marketing be a habit, right? So we all get up every day and we brush our teeth, and we feel pretty gross if lunchtime comes around and we haven't done that habit for the day, right? We're like, oh God, this is disgusting. I need to go do that. And while I'll still stand by the fact that like you don't have to market your business every single day, but you would never go weeks without brushing your teeth. But for some reason, wedding planners and different pros will go weeks without marketing their business. And so the habit piece is really important to committing to the long play that is marketing. And to me, that's having a dedicated space for you to see, these are the tasks that I'm going to do on any given day of the week. So, a task calendar to me is crucial. We already talked about how my paper calendar is like my ride or die. This is literally what Tayler is doing on any given day of the week. But I have a digital version of that for, the things that need to really be kept in line. And they're not mixed in with my hair appointment or where I'm going for dinner on Tuesday at 7:30, right? Like, they're not mixed in on a calendar where they can get lost. They are on a calendar that is purely for marketing, so I can see them very clearly and I can really get a grasp of the volume of things that I'm trying to do on any particular day, which is a great way to make sure that you're keeping things scaled down to what's realistic for you.
It's funny. I feel like we've kind of checked our Mission Impossible box here, surprisingly enough. Like this notion of, and this is again, and we said this at the outset, really high level, but just kind of boiling things down to the essentials. Like, you need a strategy, and then you need a commitment to execute that strategy. And obviously, there are other details here. Again, if you're like, oh, I'm going on social media, well, what are the specifics of that social media? That's beyond the scope of our interview here. But, strategy and then the commitment to execution. Is there any other pillar here that, you feel like we should share, like beyond the sort of strategy and devise strategy and commit to executing it?
Yeah, it's having something in place to help you understand what's actually working and what's not, and what's like a total waste of your time, right? And so this is marketing metrics and analytics, and most of the things out there are super intimidating. Like, I'm not gonna lie, Google Analytics is changing. It's kicking us all off of the old school version that we've all finally gotten used to, and is making us go to this new version. And it's intimidating as hell. I'm like, I don't know my way around this. Where do I get this information now? Like, I used to go here and now I don't know. And, Facebook, I was, the past 2 days, literally fighting with Facebook. So, but those numbers give us huge amounts of insight so that we know, hey, it's okay to follow your gut and like to give you a general sense of direction of like, what do I want to try? But when push comes to shove, you need to be tracking analytics to know, like, this was actually worth the however many hours or however many dollars I invested into that, because I can clearly see that it's bringing me in leads to, fill my sales funnel. And without that, you're just throwing spaghetti against the wall and like hoping stuff is working without getting smarter and refining things over time.
Oh, that's so powerful, Tayler. Yeah, that's a three-legged stool there. That really, like, you want to have your strategy, but it's not enough to just commit to, implementing and executing if you're not paying attention to what's working, so that you can then come back and revise that sort of strategy on the basis of the data that you're seeing.
Yep.
I love that. Love it, love it, love it. I have one more question, and I could talk to you all day, which is why, I have the privilege of talking to you, and it always is awesome, as I said at the beginning of the interview. But to kind of round things out here, because you've been on the podcast before, there's one question I always ask, which is if you could give one piece of advice based on everything you've learned, seen, experienced in life that would be as helpful as possible to the people listening as they're trying to build their businesses, what would that one piece of advice be?
Oh, that's an easy one. That is, be biased for action. Do the thing. Don't sit there and overthink it like I know you're going to do, because that is, again, people who are here to serve as like a core part of their person. y'all are way too nice and y'all overthink things, right? I say that that's why I have a lot of friends who literally ask, yep, don't overthink it, be biased for action, do it, because you have to, I think this is a good way to close this up. Almost everything we do for and because of our businesses is basically a giant experiment. And we have to be a part of the experiment. And if you don't try things, then you just sit in stagnation. And so that's where doing, trying, failing, learning from, and getting smarter over time is the best thing that you can do as, you know, the owner of any sort of business. And so you have grit to get up when shit doesn't work. You commit, right? And you're open-minded, and all of those things come into play. And, you know, it is a hard slog a lot of days, but it's a hard slog for everyone. So don't get down on yourself because it's hard for you.
I love that, Taylor. I almost don't even want to say anything, but I have to say that just really resonates with me. It really, really does. I mean, I'm sure it's resonating with most or everybody who's listening too. Like, I've had those days where, like, I'm just getting things done, right? Like, where I'm just acting, I'm moving, right? And there's something, and it's almost like, you know, happens when I feel right inside and I've got that, but I know, like, yeah, that's the thing that's going to make this happen. And on other days, it's easy to kind of have that nagging sense of, like, there's always some drawback, right? There's some, like, I don't mean drawback as in downside, but I mean some reservation. Like yesterday, like I was sending an email to somebody, right? And it was an impactful email. And I was like, should I send this? And I was like, just doing it. Because, like, the fear-based part of us that will kind of stymie the action is like, but what if this is bad? What if this doesn't work? Like, what if somebody's going to get mad about this? Or what if, you know, like, what if this isn't the right thing to do? But you're so right. When I'm at my best, I'm just doing it. Not being stupid, but, like, just getting things done. I love that so much.
But, like, what if it works, right? What if instead of thinking, what if this doesn't work, or what if this blows up in my face, we think, what if this works?
I love that. Yeah. Taylor, you're a gem. Love you to pieces. You already know that. How can people get in touch with you if they want to connect? And let's tell them again how they can check out Enji.
Yeah, so I'd love for everyone to check out Enji and steal that free marketing strategy you can get. So the website is enji.co. And, you know, I'm super active over on Instagram, so that's a fun place to get to know me a little bit more and get marketing tips on the regular. And so our Instagram handle is enji_co. So those are the two kind of main places that you can find me.
Taylor, you're awesome. Just keep it up. I have such, like, big expectations and hopes for what Enji is going to do. I've seen this thing from the genesis. I think it's awesome. And we're lucky to have you doing what you do for our industry. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on to have such a super, like, great and thoughtful conversation today.